Welcome to Grace. My name is Cindy and this is church. Matthew 5:21-24. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "You shall not murder," and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, "Raca," is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, "You fool," will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift.
This week at our food bank, we always have rules. There's a set of 10 rules at our food bank just to make things go smoothly. Well, since we reopened after COVID, we had to add some more rules. I didn't exactly rewrite the 10 rules. I just, instructed people, gave people the instructions about what we expected them now that we were inside. Basically, we wanted the building to flow in one direction just to make things everything safe and smooth for the people that were there. One lady, she has for 2 weeks now gone against those instructions. And I had to talk to her this week and I said, we have some rules here, and part of the rules you're not actually obeying, you're just doing your own thing, and this is what our expectation of you when you're here. And the person's response to me was, well, I don't see those rules written down, so technically they are not rules. And I said to them, you've been here since December. I am pretty sure you know what the rules are. You just don't want to follow the rules. Well, after some discussion, she happily said that next week she would follow those rules, and she thanked us, and I know I'll see her again. But it brought to mind what it means for us as people, and we all like doing this. We like the stretch rules, or we like the bend rules, and that has just been our history from the very beginning of time. Well, today we have the story of Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount, talking about anger and talking about murder. And it reminds me naturally of the story of Cain and Abel, where Cain is jealous that Abel's offering is looked upon favorably. So Cain starts to plant in his mind evil thoughts. Well, God doesn't want us to have evil thoughts. And God loved Cain. And so God went and had a conversation with Cain, to which he said, "Why are you angry? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you, Cain, you must rule over it." Makes me think that God believes that Cain has an option here. He has a way out, but he has to choose what to do next. Well, we know the story of Cain and Abel, and we know it doesn't end the way we would like to end. It's a much darker tale. And the next time God is having a conversation with Cain, he is confronting Cain on where is Abel. God surely knows where Abel is. Surely God knows where Abel is, yet he just wants to hear the answer from Cain. And what's Cain's response? Am I my brother's keeper? Yes. Yes, you are your brother's keeper. And you were supposed to look after him, and he was supposed to look after you, and people are supposed to look after other people. I'm sorry that wasn't written down, but you in your heart knew that was wrong, is basically God's response. Growing up, I grew up watching Star Wars probably as much as I read my Bible and spent time in church. And one of my favorite characters is the character Yoda, who's supposed to be the wise mentor to the other Jedis. And Yoda basically summarizes or succinctly says exactly what God says to Cain in the Old Testament. Envy leads to jealousy. Jealousy leads to hate. Hate leads to anger. And anger leads to the dark side. Well, my second story in the Bible, which should come to no surprise, is the story of Joseph and his brothers. And his brothers are envious of Joseph because Joseph is looked at favorably by the father, rightfully or wrongfully, he's looked at favorably. And the brothers know that. And the brothers may not have the Yoda wisdom, but they know the story of Cain and Abel. And they know that they should probably be aware of the sin that's crouching at their door. And they know that they should probably rule over it. Yet instead, they let that anger dance around in their mind until eventually they find a time that they give in and they surrender. They don't rule over it. They let the anger control them. And they make a plot to take out Joseph. Well, I'm sure they thought to themselves, just like most of us, stretching or bending rules, oh, we're just going to throw him in a pit, a large pit, a deep pit. We're not actually technically killing him. It'll be up to God to decide if he lives. But we are going to be justified because we didn't technically kill him. Well, I think most of us know that Joseph was left there for death until the brothers changed their minds. So after these two stories, God finally said, I need to do something. And he inserted the 10 Commandments. Therefore, people couldn't just say to themselves, I didn't know. But rather, they can look at these commandments and they can say, okay, this is what's written down. The problem with things being written down is that people can bend them, stretch them, misuse them. And sure enough, that's what people did. Even people who are followers of God, even people of God, even the rabbis and the Pharisees of the time, they thought to themselves that because they were not killing anybody, that they were justified in their own hearts. Well, Jesus says, that's what you thought was important isn't as important as perhaps you thought, and this is actually what's important. Or how about this way? If you thought that you were going to stretch and bend rules, let me stretch what was said in the Old Testament so that you really know what is expected of you. And what's expected of you is that not only you are tempted, you don't give in to temptation. That is good. That's something. But it would be even better if you're not even tempted to begin with. Well, how can you not be tempted to begin with? Well, the only way for us to not be tempted to begin with is for us daily to commit to renewing and transforming our minds and our hearts through the Holy Spirit to be more like Jesus. I grew up in Toronto, and I drive in Toronto. Toronto has traffic. It also has one of the widest highways in the world, the 401. You drive on a highway, you can go 120, 130, 140, but no, sure enough, at some point in time, you will come down to a screeching halt to maybe 10 or 20 kilometers an hour. And at the very beginning, you might not have that much frustration, but then it starts to grow and hate starts to grow. And you start to think, where do I need to be? Or where am I going? And sure enough, you start to get frustrated. Well, or what if you take the TTC and you squish into a subway car on the ride home, and then just before your stop, the TTC man comes on the speaker system and he says that the next stop, everybody has to get off. And they're going to have to transfer onto another subway to continue the journey. That will play on your mind and on your heart. Well, that is what Jesus is calling us to do. It's not good enough just not to murder. Most of us in the world have not murdered. However, if we are to be honest with ourselves, most of us do, whether it's because we're arrogant or whether it's because we have envy, we do let anger hobble around in our minds, and that is not a good thing. We need to fix that. Well, Jesus says this: if you have any problems with somebody, and you may have problems with somebody, you may have problems with an old friend or an old family member, a business partner, if you have a problem with that person, you need to go fix it before you come to the church. Have you ever gone into a Walmart, a Best Buy, a Hudson Bay, and there's always a greeter? And the greeter says, "Welcome to the Hudson Bay." They may say, "How are you doing today?" And if you were ever to say, "Well, you know what, I don't like my neighbor anymore. That guy doesn't mow his lawn. There's weeds everywhere. In fact, I have these wild thoughts about how to get rid of them." The greeter would never say, "You know what you need to do? You need to stop what you're doing here. We don't even want your money. We don't need you to shop here. That's not the priority. What we want you to do is go home and take care of that relationship with that person." But that's exactly what Jesus is saying. Jesus is saying, don't come to the church, which is important. Don't come to the church if there's a problem with somebody else in your life. Businesses don't tell people not to come. We want people to come. But in this case, Jesus is saying, there's 10 commandments. 4 of them are about me, right? Loving God with all your heart, soul, strength, mind. But then the next 6 are about loving your neighbor. So you have to love your neighbor. And that is very important. It's important to me, and it should be important to you. And I need you to go out and about and correct that. So that's what the encouragement is. Today, I think there's a few things to take away. One, the goal in life is not to not commit sin. The goal in life is to be transformed and renewed, that our minds and our hearts don't even want to sin. Are you there yet? I don't know or if I'm fully there yet, but we need to get there. What about the fact that perhaps sometimes we go to church when there's things that are not necessarily right in our life? Are we lying to ourselves and pretending everything's great when everything's not so great? Well, don't do that. It's not good for you. You're not going to grow that way. And God knows you're not tricking him, so don't do that. And then finally, I used to go to a gym, and the gym had this sign, right? Because everybody's at different places in life at the gym, right? We're all exercising at different levels. So the sign said, "No judgment." Don't judge anybody here. We're all on the same path. Don't judge others. Just don't do that. And we should be happy and we should be relieved about that, because we are not perfect ourselves, but rather we're going to leave the judgment up to the judge himself, God. And we should be also happy and grateful that we have a judge who is righteous and who is gracious. This is Grace. My name is Stephen, and this is church.
The Church of the Nazarene has a story, a rich history, and a passionate mission. We're an international family with congregations on every inhabited continent.
No single language, race, or nationality claims the majority of our members.
We are a denomination that believes we are never meant to live out our faith in isolation.
We're called to look after each other in love, to walk faithfully in the company of other believers.
That is what being a part of the body of Christ is all about.
living
and loving
in community.
All your ways are good, all your ways are sure. I will trust in you, Lord, higher than my sight, high above my life. I will trust in you, Lord. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, I will follow you. I will follow you. Light unto the world, light unto my life. I will live for you alone. You're the one I see, knowing I will find all I need in you alone, alone. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, I will follow you. I will follow you. Yeah. In you there's life everlasting. In you there's freedom for my soul. In you there's joy, unending joy. And I will follow you. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, I will follow. Where you go,